I showed up at their door on my birthday, just hoping to see the grandkids. My son-in-law said, "They're busy. You should have called. Actually, don't come back without an invitation." My daughter said, "You always make things awkward." I left without a word. But when my will was updated that week, their names. I'm a 67-year-old woman living in Columbia, Missouri. I retired a few years ago from working as a receptionist at a dentist's office. I lived a quiet life after my husband, Dave, passed from a heart attack 14 years ago. He was the love of my life. After he died, it was just me and my daughter, Natalie. Raising Natalie alone wasn't easy. She was 16 when Dave died. She changed after that. Not overnight, but little by little, she got colder. More distant. I figured it was grief. Teenage girls can be rough, and losing her father only made it worse. I tried my best. I still worked full-time. I gave up dating. I did everything to make sure she was okay. She went to college in Springfield. I helped her pack, paid what I could. I picked up night shifts to cover her books and rent because she didn't want a roommate. I'd leave care packages outside her apartment when she didn't answer my calls. After college, she moved back to Columbia. She started dating Aaron. He was quiet. Seemed respectful. I tried to stay out of it, let her build her own life. They got married in a small ceremony in the backyard. I offered to help pay for a bigger wedding, but she said no. Told me she didn't want anything emotional or dramatic. I guess that should have been a red flag. They had 2 boys, Caleb and Jonah. My grandsons. My whole heart. The first time I held Caleb, I cried so hard I had to hand him back. I thought I was going to get the chance to do things over. To be the kind of grandma who was always around, always helpful. And I was. At first. I babysat. A lot. Overnight, on weekends, sometimes even during the day when Natalie was working from home but needed to focus. I bought diapers, toys, even paid for part of their daycare one year when Aaron got laid off. I never said no. Not once. At first, they were grateful. They said thank you. They invited me to birthdays, cookouts, Christmas mornings. But it started changing a few years ago. It was small at first. Comments like, "Mom, please text before you come over." I said sure. Then it was, "We're a little busy this weekend, maybe next time." I didn't push. I figured they had their own lives. Then Caleb stopped calling me grandma. He started saying Susan. I laughed the first time, thought it was a joke. But Natalie said they were trying to teach the boys boundaries. I asked what that meant. She said, "It's confusing when everyone wants to be called grandma. I'm the only one. Aaron's mom passed. His dad isn't in the picture. There's no other grandma." That stung. But I didn't say anything. Last Thanksgiving, I made a whole turkey, sides, everything. They were supposed to come. At 2 p.m., Natalie texted, "Sorry, we're not feeling up to it. Can we reschedule?" I ate alone. I packed all the food up and dropped it off at the food pantry the next morning. But the final straw was my birthday this year. It landed on a Wednesday. February 7th. It was cold and gray. I hadn't heard from them. No call, no text. Not even from the boys. I figured maybe they forgot. I baked lemon bars anyway, Natalie's favorite. Put them in a tin and drove over. I didn't want to stay. I just wanted to say hi. Maybe get a hug from the boys. When I knocked, Aaron opened the door. His face dropped when he saw me. "They're busy," he said. "No hello. You should have called. Actually, don't come back without an invitation." I was stunned. I didn't say anything. Then Natalie came to the door. She didn't look surprised. She looked irritated. "You always make things awkward, Mom." That's what she said to me. On my birthday. I nodded. Didn't say a word. Walked back to my car and left. My hands were shaking the whole drive home. I put the lemon bars on the counter, sat on the edge of my bed, and stared at the floor until the sun went down. I didn't cry right away. It was like something in me broke in a quiet way. Like a light going off. I just sat there. When I finally stood up, I walked to the trash can, opened it, and dropped the tin of lemon bars in. Then I went to my filing cabinet and pulled out my will. The next day, I called my lawyer. I told him I wanted to make changes. Are you sure? He asked. I'm sure, I said. I had left everything to Natalie and the boys. My house, my savings, my life insurance. Everything I had. I told him to remove their names. I told him to change the beneficiaries to the Mid-Missouri Women's Shelter and the David Reeves Scholarship Fund, which helps kids who lose a parent pay for college. It felt like breathing again. For the first time in years, I wasn't clinging to the idea that things might change. I let go. I told no one except my cousin Brenda, who lives down in Jefferson City. She's the one who first suggested I make the change. She told me, don't spend the rest of your life begging people to love you. 2 weeks after that, I got a voicemail from Natalie. Hi Mom. I think we need to talk. I think maybe we all overreacted. I didn't respond. A few days later, she emailed me. Then another email. We were stressed. We didn't mean to hurt your feelings. Can we move past this? Then a card in the mail. It had a picture of tulips on it. Inside, she wrote, we miss you. The boys miss you. Let's talk soon. I held on to that card for a week. Looked at it every day. Then one night, I put it in the fireplace and lit a match. That wasn't spite. That was peace. But I wasn't finished. I pulled out a notebook. Big red spiral one from Walgreens. And I started writing. Everything I had ever done for Natalie. Every babysitting night. Every dollar spent on clothes, gifts, gas, school events. Every time I stayed up late baking cupcakes for Caleb's school party because Natalie forgot and called me in tears. I filled the whole book. Then I mailed it. No return address. Just her name. I knew she'd recognize my handwriting. 2 weeks later, she showed up at my door. Alone. No boys. No Aaron. She looked smaller. Not physically, just diminished. She was wearing sweatpants and a hoodie. Her face looked tired. I could tell she'd been crying. Mom, she said, her voice breaking. Please. I didn't realize how much you were doing. We didn't mean to hurt you. We were just overwhelmed. I looked at her. And for a moment, I wanted to hug her. I wanted to say it was okay. But then I remembered what she said. You always make things awkward. So I said, you should have thought about that before you made me feel like a stranger. I didn't invite her in. She stood there crying. I closed the door. I thought that might be the end. But it wasn't. Because Natalie wasn't done yet. About a week after Natalie came to my door, I started getting text messages from Aaron. I hadn't heard directly from him in over a year, not since the "don't come back without an invitation" moment. Now all of a sudden, he's texting me things like, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Natalie's really struggling right now. The boys are confused. We didn't mean to push you away. Can we meet and talk? I didn't reply. I didn't delete the texts either. I just stared at them every night for 3 days. Then the doorbell rang. It was Aaron. On my porch. Holding Jonah's little backpack in one hand and some drawing in the other. A stick figure picture of me and the boys, hearts around it. They miss you, he said. They talk about you every day. I didn't take the picture from him. I just looked him in the eye and said, "You told me not to come back without an invitation." He looked uncomfortable. "I shouldn't have said that." I said nothing. Then he said something that changed everything. "Natalie's pregnant again. She's having a rough time. Emotionally. I think part of it is what happened with you. Maybe we could reset?" I didn't even blink. "You're telling me now because she needs something." He looked down at the porch boards. "No, that's not, well, I don't know. Maybe. But I'm here because I want to fix it." I said, "Fixing it would have meant not letting your wife tell her mother she's awkward on her birthday and standing by like that was normal." He looked like he wanted to say more, but I just closed the door again. Later that night, I cried. Not because I missed them, but because I finally admitted to myself what this was. They didn't see me as family anymore. They saw me as a resource. Someone who could be helpful, useful, but only when it fit their schedule. And now that I'd pulled that away, they were scrambling. Then Brenda called. She said, "You're not going to believe this, but Natalie posted something on Facebook." I don't use Facebook anymore. I deleted it after one too many political arguments in the comments section. Brenda read it to me over the phone. Sometimes we don't realize how much we hurt the people who love us. Trying to fix what's been broken. Forgiveness is hard, but I believe in family. There were comments from her friends saying things like "You're so strong" and "It takes courage to admit mistakes." A few even said, "Hope your mom can forgive you." But I wasn't angry about the post. I was angry about what came next. 2 days later, I got a call from a woman named Cheryl. She's a mutual friend of Natalie's from her church group. Cheryl said, "Susan, I hope you don't mind me reaching out. Natalie's been very emotional lately. She's told us a little about what happened. I know she regrets how things played out. I just thought maybe if you heard it from someone else." I cut her off. I don't need a campaign. This isn't high school. I'm not going to be guilted into being someone's doormat again. She tried to respond, but I hung up. That night, I finally did something I hadn't done since before the boys were born. I packed a small overnight bag and drove 2 hours to Lake of the Ozarks. Checked into a little roadside motel I used to stay at with Dave when we wanted to get away. I didn't tell anyone. I turned my phone off. I brought a book, a flask of bourbon, and one of Dave's old flannel shirts that still smelled like him if I pressed my face into it. And I spent the whole weekend doing nothing but thinking. Thinking about how hard I tried. How I bent over backward for Natalie. How I ignored the red flags. How I kept making excuses for the way they treated me. How I begged for scraps of affection from people who should have loved me without conditions. I came back home Sunday evening. My phone had 4 voicemails. 2 from Natalie, 1 from Aaron, and 1 from a blocked number. I played the blocked one first. It was my grandson Caleb. His voice was shaky. "Hi Grandma. I hope you're okay. I miss you." It was the only one that made me cry. The next morning, I went outside to get the paper and noticed something taped to my front door. A child's drawing again. More hearts. "We love you, Grandma." It wasn't signed, but I knew it was from the boys. That's when I realized what was happening. They were using the boys now. Pulling them into the middle. Making them the bridge. The bait. And that made me more furious than anything. I didn't blame the kids. Of course not. But I wasn't going to be manipulated anymore. I'd made peace with my choice. I changed my will because I wanted to. Because I needed to. But they weren't going to stop. Natalie was going to keep trying. Aaron would keep showing up. They'd keep playing nice, acting like they were sorry, when the truth was, they were only sorry that the free help, the silent support, the blank checks were gone. I was done playing the role of the silent grandmother waiting by the phone. But I wasn't finished yet. Not by a long shot. About a week after I got back from the lake, I got a certified letter in the mail. From a lawyer. At first, I thought maybe it was some mistake, maybe a follow-up from my own attorney. But no, it was from their lawyer. Natalie and Aaron. I sat down at the kitchen table, opened the envelope, and read. It was a formal mediation request. They wanted to resolve the growing estrangement in a structured environment. It said I had refused reasonable communication and was potentially causing emotional harm to the children due to sudden withdrawal. I had to put the letter down halfway through and go outside. I sat on my back porch with a mug of black coffee, staring out at the yard Dave built with his bare hands. I thought of that little swing set he installed for Natalie when she was 6. She used to beg him to push her higher. And now she was threatening legal mediation because I wouldn't come over and smile through her fake apologies. When I went back inside, I called the lawyer listed in the letter. I told her flat out. There is nothing to mediate. I haven't taken anything from them. I haven't interfered with their lives. I'm just done being mistreated. The woman sighed. I could tell she didn't want to be in the middle of this either. She said something like, I understand. Sometimes people think legal language will fix emotional problems. I hung up. Then I called my lawyer again. I asked him to document everything that had happened, the voicemail, the drawings, the letter, the calls from their friends. I don't want anyone challenging my will later, I said. Not a single person. He agreed. That same night, Brenda came over with dinner. Pot roast. She knew something was wrong. I showed her the letter. She laughed out loud. Are they serious? Mediation? What the hell is there to mediate? I didn't laugh. I just sat there feeling sad. Not for me. For the boys. I think they're trying to build a case, I said. They know what they lost. And now they're trying to force their way back in. That's when Brenda gave me an idea. A twist of her own. You know what you should do, she said, setting down her glass of wine. Put it all in writing. Every memory. Every story. Everything you did for her. Everything you gave up. So if those boys ever come looking for answers someday, you hand it to them and say, here. This is who I was. So I did. I started writing every night. Not just a list like before, but a real story. A memoir, I guess you'd call it. I started from the beginning. The day Natalie was born. The day Dave died. Her high school years. Her college loans. Her wedding. Her pregnancies. Her calls in the middle of the night when she thought she couldn't handle motherhood. And all the ways I was there. I wrote the truth. No sugarcoating. No dramatics. Just what happened. I planned to have it printed into 2 hardcover copies. One for each grandson. I wasn't going to give it to them now, not yet. But I wanted it ready. Just in case. I wasn't going to let Natalie rewrite history someday and pretend I was the one who disappeared. But as I was writing, something else happened. I got a letter from someone I hadn't heard from in over 30 years. My sister, Diane. We hadn't spoken since the late 80s. A fight over our parents' house. She moved to Nevada, remarried, raised a stepfamily. Her letter was short, but it hit hard. I heard through the grapevine what Natalie did. I'm sorry. I know we've had our differences, but I never stopped wondering how you were. If you ever want to reconnect, I'd like that. It stunned me. For years, I thought I'd lost every meaningful family bond one ever had. I thought maybe I was the problem. Maybe I pushed people too hard, expected too much, made people uncomfortable. But here was Diane, reaching out, because she'd heard about what Natalie had done. Maybe I wasn't crazy. Maybe I wasn't the villain they made me feel like. I wrote her back. That same week, I also ran into someone else. Karen, an old friend from work, at the grocery store. She'd lost her husband last fall. We stood in the frozen food aisle for 20 minutes, catching up. When I told her about Natalie, carefully, without too much detail, she put her hand on my arm and said something I'll never forget: "You gave her the best of you. It's not your fault she didn't know what she had." It stuck with me. And then, just when I thought things were quieting down, I got a phone call from the school. Jonah's elementary school. The secretary said Natalie had put me down as an emergency contact years ago and never removed it. Jonah had a fever, and they couldn't reach either parent. My first instinct was to go. To jump in the car and head straight there. But I stopped myself. Instead, I gave them Aaron's mother's number. I had it written in an old phone book. She wasn't in their lives anymore. But I figured if Natalie could drag me into drama, I could return the favor. An hour later, I got a text. From Natalie. "I can't believe you refused to pick him up. He was sick. You really are punishing the kids now." That was it. I typed and deleted several replies. I almost said, "I didn't abandon him." "You did." But I didn't send anything. Instead, I screenshot the message. Forwarded it to my lawyer. And then blocked her number. I wasn't going to fight with someone who only remembered me when she needed something. I wasn't going to be baited again. But I wasn't done either. Because now, I had something more than just anger. I had clarity. And I was about to make one last move they wouldn't see coming. 3 months passed after I blocked Natalie's number. No calls. No more drawings on the door. No more fake apologies. I kept writing my story every night. I filled up 2 full journals. I had them typed, printed, and bound with a soft leather cover. I left a note in each copy addressed to Caleb and Jonah. "If you ever wonder what happened to your grandmother, read this. I loved you more than words. This is my truth." Then something happened that kicked everything into motion. I got a call from the director of the scholarship fund I'd updated my will to support. She said a woman claiming to be my health proxy had contacted them, asking for details about the money and whether it could be adjusted for family needs. It was Natalie. She'd dug through old paperwork. Years ago, I'd made her my healthcare power of attorney. I never updated it after the fallout. That was my mistake. I told the director to ignore her. Then I called my lawyer again. "I want to fix this," I said. "And I want to make sure she never touches a dime of mine, not now, not ever." So we did. We added legal protections, removed Natalie from every document, POA, executor, everything. We even attached a notarized letter explaining the family situation, so no one could come in later and challenge it. My lawyer said it was one of the tightest, most fireproof estate plans he'd ever seen. But I wasn't done. A few weeks later, I got a call from Jonah's teacher. Apparently, Natalie had told the school that I would be picking Jonah up on Wednesdays as part of their new childcare plan. She hadn't asked me. She just told them. I almost didn't go. But something in my gut told me to show up, just once. So I did. I pulled up to the school and waited outside. Jonah came out holding a little backpack. When he saw me, his whole face lit up. "Grandma," he shouted, running toward me. I almost cried right there in the parking lot. I knelt down and hugged him so hard he squealed. But I didn't take him home. I took him back inside and asked to speak to the principal. I explained that I had no arrangement with Natalie, and that I wouldn't be picking Jonah up again. I made it very clear, this was not safe, and not okay. Then I sat with Jonah for a moment in the hallway. "I love you," I said. "But I need you to know something. Grown-ups aren't perfect. Sometimes they say things that aren't fair. But one day, when you're old enough to understand, ask your mom what happened. And if she won't tell you, come find me. I wrote it down for you." He didn't understand, not fully. But he nodded. And then I walked out of that school with tears streaming down my face. That same night, I took the final step. I wrote Natalie a letter. Not to patch things up. Not to open the door. But to close it, forever. Natalie, you crossed a line when you tried to use my name to get money. Then again when you threw your own child into the middle to manipulate me. You've lied to schools, charities, and strangers just to look like the victim. I raised you alone after your father died. I worked long hours. I gave you everything I had. And you threw it all away because I stopped being convenient. I have removed you from my life, my documents, and my home. Do not contact me again. If you try to come after my estate, know that everything is already protected. And when your sons are old enough to ask what happened, they will hear the truth. In my words. Not yours. Goodbye, Mom. I mailed it. Certified. Signature required. 3 days later, I got the green slip in the mailbox. Signed. Received. I didn't hear from her again. Months passed. I kept to myself. Reconnected with my sister Diane. Took short trips. Volunteered at the shelter I'd left my money to. For the first time in years, I felt light. Like the fog had cleared. Then, about a year later, I got a knock on the door. It was Caleb. 16 years old now. Taller than I remembered. He looked nervous, holding one of the books I had made. I found this, he said. It was in a locked drawer. I think Mom meant to throw it out. I let him in. We sat at the kitchen table, same one where I used to cut his pancakes into shapes, and we talked. For 3 hours. He read parts of the book out loud. He asked questions. Hard ones. I didn't hide the truth. By the time he left, his eyes were red. He hugged me tight and whispered, "I'm sorry." He wasn't the one who needed to say it, but I let him. After that, he came back every month. Sometimes with Jonah. Sometimes alone. They kept it a secret from Natalie. I didn't ask how. I didn't care. A few years later, when I passed, they were the only family members who stood at my funeral. Not Natalie. Not Aaron. But Caleb and Jonah stood side by side, each holding one of the leather-bound books I made. I left them letters in my safety deposit box. A key to the house. And a message carved into the back of a photo frame that read, "Love doesn't vanish. It waits for truth." As for Natalie? She got nothing. No house. No money. No control. But she did get something else. She got to watch her children grow into men who loved a woman she pushed away. She got to see them ask questions she couldn't answer. And every time they did, they reached for me. That was my revenge. Not money. Not lawyers. Not screaming matches. Just truth, peace, and silence. The kind that hurts more than anything.